If you do not do what you are told to do, when you're told to do it, you will be punished. Do you understand?
Aye, sir!
If you leave my base without proper authorization, I will hunt you down and throw your ass in jail. Do you understand?
Aye, sir!
I can't hear you!
Aye, sir!
Scream it!
Aye, sir!
Your ass belongs to me now!
Aye, sir!
Welcome back to Freedom Lovin'. This is Kevin, and this is episode number 92. And in just a bit, I'm going to talk about minimalism in action and the stock market fairy tales. So thanks for listening. Happy New Year. I really want to apologize for the last episode. I tried to hurry and post it, and I did everything myself. I normally have a team that I work with that helps me to get it posted, but this time I did it all myself because I was on the 31st, the last day of the year, and I wanted to get one more episode in before the new year came around. And unfortunately, somehow I let the music that I had selected, it actually started playing in the middle of the episode. It was actually towards the end, but it was right as I was talking. Luckily, I was made aware of this in the morning of the 1st, so I quickly got up and fixed it. But there was probably a few dozen people that heard the first version with the music in the middle, which is unfortunate. But the new version is up there now. If you missed the last episode, it was about 10 things you can do besides go to college. And that's the last episode, number 91. And it is working now. It's all good. And you can hear the Queensryche Revolution Calling song at the beginning and at the end. So instead of in the middle, right over my voice. So that's that. Probably the last time I will try to hurry things along in the podcast world because there are so many things to do in podcasting. It's easy to forget little things and leave things and save files that aren't exactly right. And it's not the first time I've done that, but usually I catch it, and I usually listen to the show a little bit to make sure everything's good. So not this time. So anyway, I have a couple things to talk about today. I'm flying solo. I don't have a guest, but I have several guests coming up in the next few weeks. I feel like this first week of the year is always kind of a letdown in terms of, like, I'm ready to go. I had a couple weeks of kind of minimal work and kind of sitting around a lot with the holidays and everything. And as soon as the first hits, I'm ready to start rocking and working and getting things done. But it seems like most of the world is kind of still on sleep mode for the next week. At least that's my experience, and this year was especially that way. It seems like it was hard to get a hold of anyone, and no one really wanted to do anything this week, so we're starting next week with a lot of stuff. So firstly, a little bit about minimalism. I read an article by James Altucher, and it's called, "I lived nowhere with nothing for the past year, and this is what happened." And he goes through and documents kind of what his life has been like the last year, bouncing around, not having really a home and not really having a lot of stuff, and just kind of making his life as easy as he can. So I'm going to go through the points that he made in the article because it really resonated with me and how most of the things that he wrote, I actually do myself as well. So here's what he says he learned. So the first part talks about what he did and how he basically has been living in Airbnb places instead of having an apartment with a lease and that kind of thing. And he says he's never going to own a home again. That's something that I am in line with him on. I will not be owning my own place. I love renting. It's so much better to me to rent than to own. But that's just me, and everyone's got their own reasons for that. For me, it's flexibility. It's the things like getting things fixed. Like when you own your place, you're responsible for everything that goes wrong. Whereas when you rent a place, the landlord is responsible for most things that go wrong. So you could have problems that you, as an owner, you just have to deal with. And it takes time, and it takes money, and it takes energy. For as a renter, all that stuff is taken care of. So I like renting. And he also was talking about the Airbnb thing. I wouldn't be able to do that right now in terms of finances. Airbnb in the U.S., or at least in San Diego, I don't know about other areas, but it's really expensive to get Airbnb places. I mean, it's looking at around the area that I live, minimum is going to be $100 a night for whatever reason. I don't know why it's that much, because it seems like people could rent their places out for less. And when I did it, I actually had times when I would go under $100 a night, but it seems like now it's just, I think part of it is the supply demand issue. A lot of the buildings in San Diego have cracked down on Airbnb hosts, and they banned people from using Airbnb or any of those type of sites and renting out their apartments. And so these are like HOAs that do that. So I think that's created less of a supply of Airbnb places, and so the demand is always huge here. So you can just charge a lot of money. So right now, I like the idea of going from one Airbnb place to another. That sounds awesome, because then you can also use your credit card to pay your rent and get airline miles. So that's pretty cool too. But it's paying $100. I mean, really, if I want to live at the places that I want to live, it's probably going to be more than $100 a night. Just, it doesn't make any sense. But I know, I'm sure Al Tucher has the money, or he's just living in areas that aren't as expensive. So then he talks about what he learned, and it's a few points on that. So he says, I've learned some good things and some bad things by doing this. A, objects. My relationships with objects has changed. I see how other people mold their lives around objects, their art, their furniture, their decorations, the way they treat their photographs and their books. People staple their personalities to their objects. Sometimes they staple a personality they want to be, and sometimes they staple who they are, or in between. I don't do any of that. I have no objects. I just borrow the objects and personalities of others for a short time, and then I move. Moving every few weeks means I can't buy anything new. I only get new skylines. I really like that. I like the idea of having new skylines. It's really cool. It's like I talked about traveling, and how when you travel, the time kind of slows down, because your mind has to process, your brain has to process everything new that you're seeing and experiencing, and all the people and experiences. So I really think that makes a lot of sense. And this thing about objects, I don't care about objects either, and I own nothing in terms of furniture. All the places that I rent are furnished places, so I would never. I don't even like the idea of owning things. The only thing I really own, I have a car and I have a bike. And the car I don't really want to have. I mean, it's sort of necessary where I live right now. It would take away a lot of freedom if I didn't have a car, but I would like to, at some point, I'd see myself living downtown again, or somewhere else, like somewhere where I don't need a car, where I can use all the transportation systems, not necessarily the public transportation, but all the other systems. Like here in San Diego, we have Car to Go, which is just awesome, and it's rental cars that you can just pick up anywhere around town and drive and park them anywhere. And then there's, of course, Uber and Lyft. And those, I think those types of ride sharing are just going to become cheaper as we move forward. So I think right now it's probably a toss up. Like if I were to get rid of my car and just take Uber and Lyft whenever I needed a ride, it would probably be pretty close. I'd probably be spending a little bit more on the ride sharing than I am on my car. But if you look at it in terms of convenience, it would be nice to not have a car and not have to pay for all these things. But the convenience of having the car and being able to just pick up and go whenever I feel like it is a freedom that I really want right now. And living downtown, though, it's a little bit easier because everything is there. I mean, you can do all your grocery shopping. You can walk anywhere, restaurants, entertainment's it's all right there. And then I try to make all my meetings there if I have meetings. And so that's a little bit easier. But if you don't live in a downtown area, a car is sort of essential right now. But, at some point we'll have self-driving cars, so we don't really need to own them. I don't know how that's going to work, but I imagine there'll be just people leasing self-driving cars that will just kind of come and pick you up when you're available. It's kind of like Uber, but self-driving. So I think that's the future. And that'll be really, really cool. It's like not worrying about insurance, not worrying about traffic tickets or parking itself. All of that, I think, will make life much easier. So B, minimalism is not cheap. People think if they go totally minimalist, they save money. Maybe this is true in the long run because, as above, I don't buy the things that many householders buy. But sometimes it costs more. It costs to move. And sometimes it costs to buy new shirts and food. But food and clothing costs and costs of entrepreneurship have gone down over the past 40 years. And insurance and education and owning houses have gone up. My main expenses are when I buy experiences. Everything else I can't buy because I can't move extra things around when I move from place to place. Yeah, that's exactly how I am. Buying experiences is great. Buying stuff is not so fun. And in moving, it becomes not a big deal when you don't have any stuff. I have one box, actually. I have one box, and then I have this cooler. So it's just kind of like packing your car and going, and not a huge deal. But minimalism is not cheap. Yeah, I agree with that. It's not always the cheaper way to go to be minimalist. I mean, I pay extra to rent a furnished apartment. Like this apartment is I probably pay about $200 to $250 extra every month because it's furnished. Like if I looked at other units in this building, I think I could definitely save at least $150, $200 and probably more on the same unit if it was unfurnished. But that price is worth it to me. The extra furniture would be a pain in the ass because then a year later when I move, then I have to either sell it or I have to move it or something. And that it doesn't allow as much freedom or flexibility to me. So C, no people to deal with. Because I use platforms like Airbnb, I don't ever have to deal with humans. No landlords, no boards, no sellers, no real estate agents. Usually there is a key hidden someplace. I find it and I move in. Then I leave it where I found it when it's time to move again. Yeah, that's the really cool thing about Airbnb is it's just all automated. You just contact them over email and you pick up the key. Usually it's in a lockbox and then the place is yours. And it's a really awesome system. And the way it is now for me, I don't really deal with people either. I mean, I have a thing when I move into a place that I need to really get along with the landlord. If I think that they're cool, that's a huge difference. I've had landlords in the past that made my life difficult, and that's exactly what I try to avoid. So when landlords are trying to get you to fill out all this paperwork, I tend to shy away from those places. So I'll miss out on getting a place because of the landlord's personality sometimes, but I'm okay with that. Like right now, I have a really cool landlord, and he's very flexible with all the things that I do. I actually pay my rent with a credit card. And the way I do that is I buy these Visa, I think I might have mentioned this on a previous podcast, but I buy these Visa prepaid cards at CVS Pharmacy, and then I go and get money orders at the post office with those prepaid cards. And then I pay the rent with the money orders, and then I get the credit card points. And then I just pay back my card right away, so I'm not paying interest on that. And the cards cost, now they're $4.95 each. So they're basically $5 for 500 to put $500 on the card. So you can kind of like gauge it and see if it's worth it to you. For me, it's worth it because of those airline points. Like it's the amount that I'm going to spend on the prepaid cards is much less than I would spend on the flights that I would be taking later. So, and it also gets me, once I start earning more points, I get more excited about going places, especially if I can go business class, if I'm going on a long flight. So D is friends are real. Nothing in the place I'm staying in right now is real. I don't own any of the objects. Parentheses, there is a photo of a nude Naomi Campbell facing me right now. It's not mine, but I like to look at it. I don't even use most of the objects since I don't pick them out, and I don't even know what a lot of them are for. When I invite friends over, I can have a real experience. We're all in a new place. We can talk. In the past few months, I've tried many ways to have experiences with my friends. I rented out a room in a bookstore and spent time with friends. I invited friends over for Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's. I visit people, although for some reason I've been afraid to fly the past 3 months. I'm going to try to change that. I have more and more experiences, but fewer objects. I give my friends experiences. That's a great way to go. And that's the funny thing, and we joke a little bit here about how I have a housewarming party about every few months. So it is a good excuse to invite people over. So that's pretty cool. E is explore. I like to get lost. I like to feel this is the first day I am on this planet. When I'm in a new place, I explore their life. I see their books, the garbage they let lie around, the photos of the past 30 years, or the telling lack of. When I walk outside, it's a new skyline, a new set of places, new people walking around. I take a deep breath, and I can explore like when I was a little kid. I walk around and everything is new. That goes back to exactly what I was saying about all the newness. And I did a podcast on the idea of childlike wonder. And that's something I'm definitely focused on in the new year is childlike wonder. And I think it can be done in what he's doing here. And the more different experiences, different places that you can have, the slower time goes on and the more kind of curious of the world around you can become, or it allows you to become. F, my number. Everyone figures out their number, how much they need to retire or to live, or to say F you to a boss. I don't know what my number is, but it's less than just about everyone I know because I want nothing. I don't want anything other than the lifestyle I have. If I wanted to scale down my lifestyle, I could. If I wanted to ramp up, I could, but I don't want to. I will never own a house. I don't want to send my kids to college for all the reasons I've discussed before. I don't think entrepreneurship should cost any money in today's world of quick entrepreneurship. I can write and work and live and love from anywhere. Every day I try to reach out to people in order to have new experiences, but that's it. If I look back at the past few months, the only money spent has been on experiences and food. Experiences are always more valuable than objects. People value experiences at almost zero and objects at too much, when in fact experiences are the only things that are valuable, and objects will fade in your life and eventually become unwanted and boring. An experience is a story, an object becomes a forgotten memory. So I like to buy low and sell high. Yeah, that's another thing I totally resonate with. I no intention of getting into the lifestyle of spending a lot of money on things that don't make sense. And I like that he said entrepreneurship is cheap, because it is. It's cheap. You don't have to spend a lot of money to start a business in this day and age. So the next one is roots. I don't have roots. I don't have a place where I can say, this is home. I don't know if that's good or bad. So I decided to change 100%. Why not? I saw a place that I liked. A new experience for me is to live in a place for more than a few weeks. The landlord is a well-known musician. She is moving to Nashville to pursue her art and leaving behind her apartment, completely furnished, 3 pianos. I had to staple myself back into the world. And then he talks about getting references and giving 2 months rent in advance and a security deposit. And then he had to write a letter and explaining why he had never owned a credit card. It's pretty funny. And he says he's scared to commit to a place for a year. Yeah, I'm not really scared to commit to a place. For me, like going through all that rigmarole for getting a place to live, I think is I just don't want to do it. For part of it is I don't like people prying into my stuff. Like I don't want some landlord having to do all sorts of checking on me. Not that I have anything to hide, but just checking on me and having to get all my finances. And I've done that before in the past, and it feels very uncomfortable that somebody knows all about my finances, or at least enough to where they kind of know what I own or what I have and things like that. So I just think that it's a deal between you and the person you're renting from. If you stop paying the rent, you need to leave, and that's it. There's no, it seems like that's a pretty simple thing. But when you get the law involved, it becomes really difficult, because then tenants start to know how long they can stay in a place for free legally without paying rent. And then you get these people that are squatters that do this professionally, where they're just living rent free from place to place, and they finagle their way into places, and all because of these laws that allow them to do that. But in the real world, it's just a deal between you and the landlord. So it should be a lot easier. But yeah, so I always look for the flexible people that seem to understand that at some level. He's getting a place for a year, I guess. I am not. I like the place that I'm in, and I plan to stay here for the next few months at least, and maybe beyond. I like the fact that it's centrally located and that the landlord is flexible and that it's got everything. I have a hot tub at the place. It's really cool. So I'm pretty happy with that. So minimalism, not always the cheapest way to go, but definitely makes life interesting and fun, and I wouldn't change it for anything. So the last few days, the stock market in the U.S. has been crashing, and I find it kind of interesting. I start looking at, I don't really pay attention to the stock market. Normally, I don't own any stocks, but it sort of gives you an idea of what's going on with the economy as a whole. And I have stayed away from the stock market for many years now. Right around 2007 or so, I started to read about it. I used to be really into stocks and investing, and I was into For a while, it was high tech stocks, and I was into gold and gold stocks. And then I got back into just kind of researching different companies and different opportunities out there. But then after about 2007, I realized that the stock market is full of phony money. And people say that all the time, but what does that really mean? So you have these retirement plans like 401ks and IRAs, and all of those plans are geared towards getting people into mutual funds, and that's government mandated stuff. So a lot of these 401k programs, you only have a few choices. You can go to several different mutual funds, but there isn't a choice to invest in. Sometimes there isn't even a choice to invest in precious metals, and there isn't a choice to invest in Bitcoin and things like that. So a few years ago, realizing that this is where the money gets funneled into. So basically they print up money at the Federal Reserve. They print up money out of thin air. So they're not backing it by anything. So they print this money up, and then they flood the system. They flood the markets with money. So then people's money is going directly into these retirement accounts, into the stock market, and it's all phony money. So all of these 401k plans are completely artificially inflating the market. So, a lot of these stocks are just way overinflated. And of course, that can go on for years, and it has gone on for years. But at some point, that's got to change. And I believe that it's happening right now. This is the beginning stages. I think we're just seeing the cracks in the system. And I think this is going to happen for a while. I don't think the stock market's going to crash all year long. I think it'll rebound. But I also think that this level of a downturn, and it's like the worst beginning to a year in the history of the stock market. So that's not good. That's not a good sign. Right now, the Dow Jones is down 380 points at 12:18 p.m. Pacific. So yeah, that's not a good day. So I just wanted to mention that this is something that I feel a lot better ignoring. Like, I know that over the past few years, I've missed out on some pretty big gains in the stock market. And I think that it has also given me peace of mind to not have any money in the market. And most of my investments are in what I consider safe. I consider the safer investments to be like gold and silver and even Bitcoin. I know a lot of people say it's a really risky investment, Bitcoin, but I don't see it that way, because I have done a lot of reading and research into the idea of cryptocurrencies, the idea of digital currencies, and digital currencies are here to stay. There's no question about that. Now, is Bitcoin for sure going to always be there? No, I don't know that. But Bitcoin has a huge head start on all other digital currencies. And so the idea that it's going away, that I don't believe that. I think it's going away is probably, there's a better chance that the dollar is going to go away before Bitcoin. So we'll see if I'm right, but that's where my mindset is that Bitcoin is a deflationary currency. So there are only 21 million Bitcoins that are ever going to be created ever. As far as the US dollar goes, they can inflate it as much as they want. There's no limit to how much inflation how many dollars that they can print. So that means that it is an inflationary currency. And that means that it will go down in value in the course of time. So right now, a lot of people are flowing into the dollar. A lot of money's flowing into the dollar because it's a safe bet, because the euro is sunk and a lot of the other currencies around, the fiat currencies around the world have sunk. So it's kind of, now the dollar is artificially inflated. But it's artificial, and I don't think it's a safe bet to hold on to dollars in the long run. So, I mean, it could go on for a while like this, but I don't think so. I think this down day today in the stock market is really going to set the tone for the year. And like I said, I don't think it's going to come crashing down forever and ever, or even for the year. It'll bounce. I think from the levels it's at now, it'll probably bounce up and then bounce down. And by the time the year is over, I think this year's over, I think we'll really see what is going on. I think this expression, the emperor has no clothes, is going to be thrown around a lot, because it's not just, it's a bad year in the stock market, or it's because of China. That's the one thing that I was reading today online. Well, China's having problems, so everybody's panicking, and they shouldn't be panicking. And I'm reading the Yahoo Finance. I don't know why I go to Yahoo Finance, but it is just a complete joke. I mean, the headlines that they put up there, I mean, I looked at it this morning, and then I looked at it later in the morning, And everything is like they are trying to convince people that everything is okay, don't panic. The first headline said, losses have been cut in half. And then I'm reading the article, and it's just a bunch of nonsense. Like, so the market went down 200 points, and then it was back up, so it was only down 100 points. So they were celebrating that. And then as I'm reading the article, it's dropping down below 200 points again. Then they had put up another article later saying that it's a parallel universe. It actually said this on the headline of the article, that it's a parallel universe. China is having major problems, but the U.S. economy is doing pretty well. So this doesn't make any sense whatsoever. I'm just laughing at all these headlines. I mean, it's just it so shows that they are just Yahoo, and all these mainstream networks are all just propaganda machines. They just want people to not think anything's wrong and to just kind of go along and everything's fine because it's all phony, and they know it's phony. They know that this is all a big deception, that the stock market is actually something that's real. And so they just will do anything to put up these crazy headlines. And I could see this getting worse and worse. And it's like that back in when the Iraq invasion happened back in like 2003, there was a guy that was like the minister of, I think his title was like the Minister of Propaganda or something like that. And he would come out and there'd be bombs blowing up behind him. And he'd be like, oh, we're winning the war. Everything's fine. There's no damage. And you're just looking at what's going on behind him, and it's this massive chaos. And I feel like that's what's happening right now with this market. And just the economy in general is like, if you look at the mainstream media, look at what people are saying, what the articles out there, CNN and Yahoo and all these places, they are trying to drum up this idea that, oh, there's no problems in the U.S. There's nothing to worry about. This is crazy. People are just overreacting, and oh, it's going to come back. And it's that's not serving anyone. So because we know what's going on. I mean, you can just look around. You don't have to read news. You don't have to watch cable TV. So you can just look around, like just talk to people. I mean, to see what's going on. It's not the worst. We're not in the Great Depression, but there certainly are a lot of problems. And anyway, my consensus here is to be really safe and to, look at things like precious metals, gold and silver. Gold's been going up lately. Bitcoin has been going up lately. I mean, things like that are kind of secure investments. And, look at it as a long-term play. I mean, yeah, Bitcoin is not safe in the short term. It's going to bounce around. It's going to go up $100 and then it's going to crash $80. So if you're trying to play it on the short term, it's going to be really tough. But in the long term, are digital currencies here to stay or not? I think they are. And that's really it. I wanted to talk about the stock market real quick. I don't want to make this show about stocks or about the stock market, but that is something that is happening in our world. And I think it really applies to breaking free of this mindset that that's what we need to invest in. It's kind of the old thinking, like we need to give up money to these bankers to handle for us. I remember this is like 2001, I think, I met with this guy at Wells Fargo, and I told him that I just had some money that I wanted to deposit in an account or something, and he was a stockbroker, I think, and I told him that I just want to invest it in gold because I had already lost a bunch of money in the stock market, and I just want to buy gold. And he literally laughed in my face, just sat there and laughed at me. So that is ridiculous. You really have to reconsider that. And he was saying how gold is just a horrible investment and you need to get into stocks. And so I said, okay, well, tell me what would you have? What would you recommend as far as stocks? And he gave me a couple of mutual funds, and I was asking him about those funds and why I should invest in those. And then I said, what does it mean? What is a load fund versus a no load fund? And he said, well, this one's a load fund. And I said, well, what does that mean? He said, well, that's how I get paid. And I just said, okay, great. Well, I don't really need to talk to you then, because this idea you're trying to push me into this fund that's a load fund because you get paid makes zero sense to me. So anyway, I went ahead and bought my gold and gold stocks and things like that, and and it actually went up. So the guy was wrong. And that's where it's important not to listen to the mainstream. It's really hard because everyone around you is saying it. Like even really smart people that have a lot of money will say things like, oh, the real estate market is a great place to invest your money. But you look at it and it's like, well, it's been going up for 5 years. Is that really the time to invest? Like, it doesn't seem like it to me, but people say that because they have vested interest, because they are kind of caught up in the mainstream in what everyone else is doing and this groupthink idea. So just be very cautious on that and keep your money safe. And yeah, that's about all I had for today. I'm going to be talking a little bit more about asset protection coming up. If you are interested in protecting your current assets, I would recommend going with a New Mexico LLC, and that's the invisible LLC where you can do business anonymously. And anything, you can own real estate, you can own your businesses, you can have bank accounts with your New Mexico LLC, and it's all done anonymously. So that is, there are some major advantages to that, and it is not expensive, and there's no yearly fees, which is really awesome. So if you are interested in that, just go to our page at freedomlovin.com/LLC, and also shoot me an email if you're interested, because it's one of those kind of things where a lot of people are kind of skeptical of anything to do with business entities online. So I'd love to talk to you about it and kind of talk you through it and answer any questions you have, because I do have New Mexico LLCs, and I've had a lot of success, and I really think that they're the way to go if you want more freedom, more anonymity, and more protection of your assets. So that's all I have for today. If you like this show and you want to hear more of it, please give us a rating and review on iTunes. And that's about it. So have a great week. Happy New Year, and we'll talk to you soon.